Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Monica. And if you've been, chilling with me on Instagram over on the stories, you will know that I have been mentioning this new therapy that I've been enjoying so much. It's so my therapist's name is Jaime Armstrong, and she uses RRT, which is rapid resolution therapy, but also she uses another kind of modality. It's called EPI, emotional pain intervention. And I have just been blown away with how she's been able to help me. She pretty much has a different type of approach. It's not traditional talk therapy, which requires a lot of sessions, a lot of refeeling, a lot of feelings from the past. It's a different type of approach, which is kind of like neuroscience based and brain based. And she knows and understands how to speak to the subconscious mind of your brain to reprogram and update things that are just glitches in the mind, let's say. And she explains it all so beautifully in those podcast episodes. And one thing we do mention is like talk therapy has its place, has its value, but the issue right now is that a lot of people don't know that there's a different option, a different modality to get them feeling unstuck and have their mental health be a lighter kind of feeling situation. I don't know how to explain it. She will explain it all so much better than I can. But one thing I can explain is just my experience, personal experience that I've had with her and with this approach to therapy. And oh my gosh, I've had 4 or 5 sessions with her so far in the past 4 months. And with every single session, I bring something new to her. And by the end of the session, I feel totally cleared of that. Like that doesn't exist in me anymore. I don't have to like refeel that feeling. And it's just been so incredibly empowering and exciting and fun. And I'm on this whole new excitement level to share this with everybody. And I remember when we had our first session, I was like, I cannot wait to create a podcast episode about this, because if I had that kind of like lived experience already from the beginning, and I initially found out about this approach from Manifestation Babe, she shared about how RRT therapy has been a game changer for her, and it's like the fastest and most effective modality to clear kind of like those things holding us back that are programmed within us in our subconscious mind, our fears, like our worries, all of that, and our anxieties. And I've been following her for so long, and I've done many of her programs and all of that. And I just like trust her and totally love what she teaches and embodies. And so I trusted her. And so I ended up, finding Jaime, who's on the podcast, going to be the guest on the podcast. And I hired her for an RRT session, but she also uses another modality, which is emotional pain intervention. And she's also a registered psychotherapist. So she just has like this like incredible, like she's so filled with knowledge from all these different spaces to create, results for the people that need her help, right? And so, I trusted Manifestation Babe. And from the very first session that I had with Jaime, I was like, okay, this is real. I've never experienced something like this. I need to tell everybody. And I just continued to, have a session with her every like 2 to 3 weeks. And then here we are. I just finished recording the episode with her, and it was just like a full circle moment because I was so excited for months and months and months to share this with you all. And I couldn't, I can't explain everything like she does. And I would try to go on stories, be like, guys, I'm so excited. You have no idea. And now the episode is here, and you definitely don't want to miss this. And the cool thing is that near the end of the episode, I actually am going to get therapy right here, like live on the podcast episode. And I chose to bring up something like a block that I have around when I'm shooting, because I want it to be, it doesn't have to, like, you don't have to go to therapy for anything like super deep. Therapy isn't only for like, huge life events that have happened that could have like traumatized you. It could be for like those small like hiccups where it's like, why do I feel this fear and it feels paralyzing and I can't be my full creative self when I feel this? Or I get anxiety in this moment and it seems to be a pattern. How can I reprogram my mind to stop feeling that, in the future in these situations. So that's what I do. I like bring those things to her. And so she's going to do it live for me and you can listen in. And the cool thing is that the way that she does it for me, where she talks through metaphors and stories, it will speak directly to your subconscious mind, and you may actually end up being free and clear of this kind of block when you're shooting as well. And this is something that I think literally every single photographer feels. So that's why I chose this, because I wanted you to be able to listen in to this episode and then feel like you actually got your own therapy as well. And that's like, that's why I'm so freaking excited about this episode. So yeah, Jaime is incredible. She's a registered psychotherapist, like I mentioned as well. And part of her bio, she says, I'm here. She's here to make shift happen. So instead of saying shit, she said shift. And I freaking love that. By using neuroscience and transformational therapy techniques that are fun and effective. Literally, you're also going to be tuning into like a partial stand-up comedy podcast episode too, because she's hilarious and she brings humor to what she does. And yeah, she has brain changing conversations, teaching you how to stress proof and play your brain for change. So she gives us techniques on how to use our brain to our advantage. And she explains all the different parts of our brains and how we can kind of understand what's happening and when and use it to our advantage. It's incredible. I hope you enjoy this episode here with Jaime. And if you do, send me a DM after. Also, make sure to screenshot this, share it to your story, because we need to spread the word that this modality is available to everybody and it could just fast track everyone's mental health in so many ways. So enjoy. Welcome, and I am excited to dive right in because we have so much to cover. And for those of you listening, so Jaime uses she's a registered psychotherapist, and she also uses kind of like a mixture of like modalities to help people clear blocks in their subconscious mind through therapy. And those two modalities are rapid resolution therapy and also emotional pain intervention. And something I'm really excited about that is that at the end of this episode, once you start to understand more about the approach she takes, the outdated ways of thinking around mental health, and also understanding how our brains work a little bit more in different situations, she's actually going to do like a full-on like one-on-one therapy session live with you on a concern I have when it comes to me shooting sometimes. And I think it's really cool because then you can even listen in on it. And I know I chose something that I know a lot of photographers struggle with. So maybe you can also gain the benefit of getting therapy through this podcast episode as well with that topic. So make sure you stay tuned throughout this episode, because that's going to be really awesome and beneficial for everybody. So yeah. So Jaime, could you maybe start off by explaining a little bit more about how your approach with therapy is different, and like a little bit more about basic level, like what is RRT and EPI?
Yeah, definitely. Because I do think about therapy different than what I might say is traditional talk therapy. Right? I truly do believe that if people knew how to talk their way in or out of something, they would have already done it by now. And you wouldn't need me, you wouldn't need anyone else for that. And so having this brain-based perspective means that I really think about our brains more like our smartphones, where sometimes these apps are just open and running in the background. They're taking up space, they're using our energy, they're draining our battery, they're popping up with alerts and notifications, wanting us to do something, but the thing it wants done doesn't actually exist. Thoughts about it do, but not the actual stuff. So I actually think about therapy in this way, that we've got to clear those apps out that have been running in the background. But then we don't just stop there. We've not only got to clear those apps out, we then have to download the latest version of information so that our brains are updated and working in the most beneficial way. The other side of that too, though, Sarah, is that if I'm the only one who knows how to get that done, I don't think that's useful either, right? I can't live with you. And I mean, it might be amazing, but I just am not allowed. So if I'm the only one who knows how to get that done, I don't think that's useful. So I'm always interested in making sure that people know how and why our brains do things and know what I know, because then we can know what to do about it. Because we know so much more now than we ever have. And we know we can actually change our brains. So this outdated way of thinking that we have to like live with or manage something, which is what we're telling our brain when we talk about coping skills. I don't believe in coping skills. It sends that message to our brain that we have to live with and manage something. And since we know 2/3 of our brain is made out of plastic, we can change it. So we no longer have to live with things. We can actually change it so it no longer has an effect. So the
Yeah.
approach in general of therapy is changing. Our whole field is changing. And in therapy, sort of mental health terms, it means we have stopped sort of really pushing this top-down approach of therapy, which is where cognitive behavioral therapy lives. It's a top-down approach. We're targeting our brain now from the bottom up. So some of these approaches that I use are considered to be transformational because they're bottom-up approaches.
Oh my gosh. And when you say bottom up, I know what that means now because during our sessions, you've explained to me so beautifully about like the different parts of our brain and how pretty much the bottom part is the subconscious part of our brain. And before we get to kind of understanding that a little bit more, I love that you brought up how we don't like the outdated way of, getting therapy and maybe getting through things that feel like stucknesses or traumas or anything is that we feel like we have to manage it. And I love the metaphor that you used about the apps on the phone and updating those apps or even deleting them, removing them. Like, because you wouldn't keep like an app and manage it being like not working efficiently, or maybe it's been 10 years since you first got the app and hello, technology changes really quickly. If you have an app for 10 years and you have not updated it once in 10 years, for you to manage that app would mean it would be performing so slowly that for you to make one small move, it would take you an hour instead of 5 seconds. Right. And it's like, I love that metaphor so much because it just shows how so much of our energy and time and mental and emotional bandwidth can be wasted on just constantly managing when there is the option of actually like clearing something out and then updating it with a new, better app that is more current with what you need in your life currently. It's just, that's exactly what I love about how you approach therapy. And I just want everyone to know about this. This is just a game changer.
Well, it is a game changer because we're actually changing our brain, right? If we continue with this sort of analogy of the phone, when you get a new phone, it comes with these things installed, right? So many apps. You're not responsible for what it came with, but you do have a responsibility to update it if you're interested to continue to use it. You also have a responsibility to clear out what you're not using if you're interested in that. You don't have to, but it does take up space if you don't. So every time I get a new phone, I go through and decide what I'm going to keep and what I'm not going to keep. And then I add new things to it. And so our brains work the same way. There are millions upon millions upon millions reasons, and even unknown reasons about how we come to be as like humans. And I think when we can start to understand that some of that stuff just is, but we don't have to live with it that way. Some of it can be undone, changed, shifted, evolved. And well, I think our responsibility as people is to know that and then to know what to do about that. And so that's why I'm excited about it. Because I think the thing you're really excited about is that the other way we're thinking about therapy now is that it's not this weekly, lifelong experience, right? And I truly do call that rent a friend. Like I don't believe in this weekly, lifelong therapy thing. I think there's way better options for a rent a friend than me. But you know what? Sometimes that's useful for people. But if we really want to experience life in a different way without all that stuff, well, then having this new approach to therapy in the way that we're thinking about things is how we're going to do all that.
Yeah, the way I kind of see it is like, because I truly believe that nothing is in life is inherently good or inherently bad. It's neutral. It's what meaning you assign to it. And so I don't think traditional talk therapy is bad. It's just like it is what it is, and it is a resource. It's a way for you to express yourself, for you to maybe, sometimes when you when you talk, I don't, for me, when I say something out loud, I actually hear it in my ear and I'm like, oh, actually, I think I know what to do about it. But one
That's
thing
probably
that,
your human design, Sarah,
oh,
right?
is it?
Yeah, we all have different ways of doing that, and that's specific to human design. For some, just hearing it said out loud by themselves is like how they make decisions. Like, oh, I heard it, I got it.
Oh my
Right?
God, I need to talk to myself in my office then. Now I know what
That's
to
why, yeah, like
like
voice,
out loud to
yeah,
myself.
voice notes are probably useful for
Mhm.
you, right? Just hearing it saying that. But for some people, they need to say it to another person, which is sometimes
Ah,
therapy is useful that way. But
yeah.
those are specific ways. There's like so many more ways of doing that, that's specific to our human design.
Yeah. But one thing I love, like, or sorry, not that I love, is like, I just don't want people to think that traditional talk therapy is the only option,
That's right.
because it has its place. But then if you want to clear things kind of in a more seamless, easy, in a way that you don't have to be re-triggered, re-feeling all that pain that you once felt, maybe it's of something traumatic that's happened to you, for example, there is a way that can be done like more efficiently, more smoother, more faster. And that's why we're having this conversation right now, just to bring light to this different approach that's available to you if it's what you need, instead of therapy, instead of like, so
Well,
yeah.
yeah, because I sort of think about it like this, that I know 5 reasons cupcakes are terrible for me. That has never once stopped me from eating one. And I could be prescribed medication, which would be really useful to suppress my appetite, but that's not going to stop me from thinking about it. And so, logically and consciously, we may know something, and yet it still happens anyways. Because there are different levels of our brain. Our brain does process information differently in each of those levels. So it's the difference of if you're having an experience that you're like, I know this, but it happens anyways. And
Yeah.
consciously, that's not where the problem's coming from. And so if we're going to address it at a conscious level, it would be like there's a leak in your kitchen sink, but you've gone to the bathroom sink to fix it. Like it makes sense.
Yeah.
That's not where it's happening. Right. So when we target the brain and communicate with it in a language it understands, which can be storytelling and humor and all sorts of things, because our brain changes from novelty and play, doing new things and having fun. So when we can target the brain and communicate with it in a language it understands, change becomes immediate. But when we can pinpoint the exact events to resolve, well, then change becomes lasting, which is this whole different experience of when you're having a struggle that's, I know this, or it happens even when I'm not interested, it means that we're logically not going to talk that through. So we've
Hmm.
got to approach it from a different way to cause that change and to get that
Oh, so beautifully explained. And this is why I love my sessions with you. You just explain it in these beautiful, like you said, metaphors, story, humor. And I'm like, oh, it clicks. It clicks so much deeper. And so now let's go back to the bottom up approach, right?
done.
So, could you maybe explain like again how, because I know you did that so beautifully before, where you kind of made like a little fist and you're like, this is the subconscious mind and this is the, I'm
Yeah.
is it the emotional, and then the top is the conscious. Anyway, you can explain that better. But could you maybe do it in an example of like what goes on in our minds when, for example, so something that a lot of photographers feel very often, and it could feel very like debilitating, and they just freeze, like freeze so much, is it's comparisonitis. And it's like the idea that when they look through Instagram and they see, oh, a photographer created a beautiful image like this, and right away they just start putting themselves down, being like, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. Like, and then that not good enough is just can feel so like debilitating. You end up feeling like, what's the point of even working on my business? And I find so many photographers getting stuck here instead of just putting their blinders on,
Mm.
taking their time to like grow and build their business and in a way that they want to do it instead of focusing on what is everyone else doing. So if someone in a moment, right, let's say a photographer is scrolling through Instagram, they're like, I'm not good enough. Look at all these photographers are so amazing. Oh my God, they make more money than me. Oh my God, look at this photo comparison. What goes on in our brains in that moment when we're comparing ourselves to someone and not feeling good enough?
Yeah. I mean, let's first just normalize that that happens to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I guess I could say it happens if you have a brain, right? Because our brains are designed to do that. So the first way to really get things is that our brains work just like guitars, right? Guitars are designed to go out of tune, whether you play it or not. Sometimes if you've only ever played a guitar that's been out of tune, you maybe don't notice it's been out of tune until you maybe hear a guitar that's in tune and realize that sounds different, or maybe someone points it out to you because maybe they notice it's out of tune. Either way, once we know it's out of tune, we don't think the guitar is like ruined and have to get rid of it. I mean, even if a string breaks on a guitar, we don't get rid of the guitar. We don't think that it's useless and no good. We get it's designed to do that. And we simply restring it, we retune it. And if you know how to do it, you do it. And if you don't, you take it to someone who does. But when you're buying a guitar, you're never like, give me the one that never goes out of tune. Like, we don't know. And we don't know if it goes out of tune. And our brain works the same way. It is designed to go out of tune, whether you use it or not. The same can be said if you hear a musician playing a guitar that's been out of tune, you don't think they suck at playing music. Right? You get that they would sound so much better with that guitar in tune. So what
Mm-hmm.
we're really saying is that our brains are designed to go out of tune. Whether you're interested in it or not, it's going to go out of tune. And so today we're going to do some things definitely to make sure we know how to retune it. But first, just being okay with knowing like that is okay that that happens. These things, these thoughts, this stuff that's been experienced, it's noticing that your brain has been out of tune. And so we retune it. The way we retune it is at a very basic core level. Our brain only ever responds because it thinks it's about to be eaten. So I will break that down in a second, but I think I actually didn't really even answer something you earlier asked me, which was what's really this foundation of things that I use, which is rapid resolution therapy and this
Mm-hmm.
emotional pain intervention.
Yeah, please, yeah, go over that.
Yeah, because we've already sort of covered here that like all therapy is useful and people should go to therapy. I mean, my mother once recently just said to me, she thought it was so interesting about how, she said, isn't it interesting, Jaime, that you and like other people have to go to therapy, but like people like me and others like don't? And I literally just looked, I probably blinked a million times and I was like, I'm sorry, hang on. You don't think you have to go to therapy? And she's like, I know, isn't it fascinating? Like some of us just don't need it. And I died instantly. And I was like, okay, mom. Well, first of all, everyone would really benefit from therapy. Also, what do you think I talk about in my sessions? Probably about you. And then I thought it was hilarious because I was like, well, that's great, mom. It's nice that you feel good about that. Also, great to know that the closest you'll ever come to therapy is by having a daughter who became a therapist. That's good to know. So I don't know. Everyone can use it, and there are so many types of it. And what we're saying though is we used to only think there was one way. And that's what we're updating, is that it isn't how you've ever thought it's ever been. We have these transformational styles and approaches to therapy and mental health, which now have us understanding that you are not what your brain has been doing. You are not a diagnosis. You are not the worst thing that's ever happened to you. You are a human with experiences and data glitches in our brain. So rapid resolution therapy was founded by Dr. John Connolly, and he's in Florida. And so I was trained in this style of therapy, I don't know, like 15 years ago. And gosh, and then it was like mind blowing. And
I
it's
can't believe that you discovered this 15 years ago and I just discovered it now.
yeah.
What?
Well, you know what?
Oh,
That is
wow.
sort of an indicator of the system that
Yeah.
research takes time, and like getting things out into like a scientific, sort of government-based thing that people approve of this stuff.
Mhm. Mhm.
It just means that also people are a bit nervous because they're like, no, we like this way of doing things, and people just
Mhm.
don't know. But we're in this cool energy where now we don't give a fuck. We're like, I'm gonna do whatever I want, and like this is great. And people are like down for like the weirdest shit they've ever
Yes.
experienced, right? And people like love it. They're like, I'm gonna tell you about this weird thing I did the other day. And feel like the weirder the better, right?
Yeah.
So we're in this cool energy where people are learning more and sharing more and excited because, well, once you experience it, there's nothing like it.
Mhm.
So rapid resolution is one of many. There are so many transformational forms of therapy that are using this bottom-up approach, but this is the one that I'm particularly trained in and I love because it's really founded in this idea of humor and play and using these stories to really connect with a new way of thinking, which is one of the things we've said is that you're not what your brain's been doing. Another thing that we've talked about is that, well, our brains are supposed to do this, and that therapy is not meant for a lifelong experience, which we don't have a lot of people and therapists who think about things that way. But I think the other thing that's really huge in a foundation of this rapid resolution therapy is that it is my job to get it done.
Mhm.
I don't give homework. People always call, well, like, what kind of homework? And I'm like, I never did that when I was a kid. Like, I'm certainly not going to do that now. Right. And a message to our brain that something is work isn't a great message. And so
Mhm.
it is my job to get it done. If you knew how to do this, you would have already done it by now. If I could take my own photos, I would do it. I have no skill. I don't even have the interest, let alone the patience, but like, I'm not going to do it. And so this other approach through rapid resolution therapy is that your only job is to show up and it's my job to get it done. So it really challenges this system of thinking that we're not a diagnosis and also that it's not someone. Resistance is a word people use in therapy. Oh, they're just resistant. And it's like, well, no, they're not. You figure it out. So
Mhm.
part of rapid resolution is this idea of like really challenging how we think about things. But the foundation of all of it is this emotional pain intervention, which was created by Dr. Elizabeth Mikas, also from Florida. And she is this brilliant neuropsychologist who thought, we don't have a great way of understanding how and why we experience things. So she created this way of thinking about the brain. And she created this really easy way to understand it that when you get it, it will explain any experience you've ever had. And I think that's what you want me to
Mhm.
share now, yeah?
Yeah, actually, I think so. And I think it's also, if you can, I, I mean, you know how to explain it best, but I wonder, is this a good time for you to explain the three levels of the brain like you did to me once before?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so, because it will answer what you've described, this experience of like comparison and things, because at a basic level, our brain is just trying to continue. Right?
Mhm.
So everything we do can come back to that. But there are some very specific things about how and why things happen. So I'll share a little bit about it. I know you already know some of this, and some of your listeners might know it too, but I'll share some things that may also be new. So, Sarah, you don't apply any of this to you, and nobody else apply it to themselves because I'm going to share it. Then let's think through it, and then let's see how that fits. Is that okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, like I use my hand for it because it's a perfect model. There's also another, Dan Siegel is another sort of well-known person in the mental health field. And so he had this understanding that our hand from the side looks like our brain. Like if we cut it in half, it'll look just like this. This is our amygdala, it's wrapped by our prefrontal cortex, and our arm goes into our spine. So our brain has three regions, which is much different than how we used to think about it, because we used to think our brain only had a left brain and a right brain. And we do have a left brain and a right brain, but people over-identified with that way of thinking. I'm left brain, I'm so analytical and good with numbers, and I'm right brain, I'm creative and artistic. And I was always in the middle, like, you're not a friggin' brain. Stop describing yourselves that way. But what science tells us now is that our brain actually has three regions. So using this hand model we have a top, middle, and bottom brain. There's a lot of information in all of this, but I'll give sort of the short, basic things to understand that is brain changing, because, well, once you know something, you can't unknow it. So this bottom brain is the very first part of our brain to be fully developed. It's involuntary and automatic, controls our nervous system, our body movements and sensations, and our emotions. So the bottom brain is involuntary and automatic, meaning we don't decide what it does, and it controls our emotions. That is so huge, because this other way of thinking about things is like, choose to feel happy, or it's like, think happy thoughts, you'll be happy. I don't know. I think about like the lottery all day, and I've never once won it. I think about donuts and cupcakes all day long. They never just appear. So this, like, if you like do this, that happens. That logical way makes no sense, because our emotions are controlled by our bottom brain, which is involuntary and automatic. And this is the same brain all mammals have. Goats, zebras, donkeys, same exact brain. And if we consider it a zebra for a moment, its only purpose is to continue. Protect self, protect family, protect territory, and procreate, continue the line. So a zebra's only purpose is to continue. And that's the same brain our bottom brain is. But here's where it gets interesting, because like zebras, mammals, the way they continue is through movement. Fight, movement towards something, flight, movement away, freeze, stay very still, and flop, play dead. People forget about freeze and flop, but fight or flight jazz up our nervous system, while freeze, flop deactivate our nervous system. See, as humans, though, we're a bit more complex. So, well, we took our basic survival system and decide to attach our identity to it and call it mental health. Like, we would never ever say a possum's depressed when it plays back. Right? You would never say a rabbit has anxiety when it's running from wolf, or that a deer has ADHD when it's distracted by approaching hunter. And you would never send a zebra to anger management because it got strength to its body to lunge, bite, and attack approaching lion. We as humans, our complex, amazing selves, took our basic survival response system, attached it to our identity, and then we called it mental health. It's a bit ridiculous.
And what a burden to carry.
It is, you know what, Sarah, I think truly at the core of everything is this idea that we have to live with something. So a diagnosis in mental health is not a lifelong sentence or a description of who you are. It is actually just a way to have people in a medical professional have a short form way of understanding someone's trouble. Like, it's not actually who you are. And because we know we can change our brain, it means we no longer have to live with that. If a third of our brain is the same brain all mammals have, and mammals turn it on and they turn it off, they respond to perceived threat for survival. Well, then if they don't have to live with mental health, then why do we insist we do? I mean, that's an outdated way of thinking. So that's our bottom brain. Its only purpose is for us to continue. And it does that automatically. The middle brain is the next part of our brain to be fully developed. It looks like a mohawk region of our brain. And this part of our brain is also non-conscious. And it's non-conscious thoughts and images. And it limits and confuses the bottom brain. It's fully developed when we're about 11 or 12 years old. So just imagine, like, I know nobody asked my input for human development, but for like the first 11, 12 years of our life, we're basically functioning at the level of a donkey.
Yeah.
I might have done that differently, but again, I was not around for evolution, so maybe it's But this middle brain limits and confuses the bottom brain. See, bottom brain's very limited and basic in what it does, but middle brain's more advanced, which means it's prone to error. And one of the ways it's prone to error is it lives in different time zones. So I'm here with you now. I can think of things from before. I can think of things that haven't even happened yet. That's awfully confusing for a zebra that can't tell time. When thoughts, data, information shows up, it responds as if it's happening now. The other thing this middle brain does, it's a lot of thoughts of what I don't want, what I can't do. Also very confusing to a zebra. And it's designed for social comparison. Thoughts about self, thoughts about others. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with them? This middle brain is our default mode network. It's designed to be on all the time. And it works like Google. It's constantly Googling data and information, thinking it's useful. Well, because it also works like a small child. They think they're quite useful. Sometimes they're just in the way. Maybe they're useful. They're just not very effective. And I don't know if you've ever tried ignoring a small child before, Sarah, but they just get louder and stronger. And that's our middle brain. So the other way to take this idea of like, ignore the thoughts, dismiss it, like it makes no sense. Those thoughts will continuously show up because they'll be like, you didn't hear me? Great. Well, what about this? And what about that? And what about that? Bottom brain gets it, goes, holy fuck, that's all happening right now. Yeah, we got to stay alive and make that stop happening.
Mm-hmm.
And our top brain, well, that's our highest level of functioning, uniquely human, fully developed in our mid-20s. This is our language, awareness, willpower, won't power, communication, attention, intention, intuition, all really high level executive functioning skills. But when our middle and bottom brain perceive threat, meaning when it thinks it's about to be eaten, it flips the lid. This top brain goes offline. All that logic and reasoning, it's no longer available. Middle brain thinks it's useful because it connects the top and bottom, but it's not. Just generating irrelevant data. It's irrelevant because it lives in time zones that don't exist. And bottom brain doesn't speak English. Top brain doesn't speak zebra. The only way the bottom brain can communicate to the top brain is by causing pain or sensations in our body or negative emotions to show up. It's either designed as a request for action. Feelings are not meant to be felt. They're not meant to be dove into and like really exploring and sitting with, like all that stuff is useless. It's a survival response. Our brain has no other way to alert us that it thinks it might get eaten. So all of that to say that people are not what their brains have been doing, but sometimes their brains have been playing them. They've gone out of tune, not because they're interested in making people feel bad, but our brain would rather be wrong than have us be eaten.
Yeah.
So as long as people aren't actually at risk of being eaten, then it's been a data glitch. It's been out of tune. And well, the other part to know is that memory and data can be stored in our whole entire brain. So sometimes when we have data of memories and experiences that get stored in the bottom brain, well, the bottom brain can't tell time. So it's always responding, thinking it's happening now.
Mm-hmm.
That's why this way of thinking is powerful, because we can clear out that bottom brain data. We can update our brain to tell time, which means the thing that's been troubling no longer exists. So I know I shared a lot about that, but let's just apply it to what you asked, which is that middle brain generates thoughts and data about stuff, especially scrolling through, comparing. How come this? And how come I don't have that? And then it's doing all this thing like, well, what if we never get that? What if we never get the clients? And then what if we never get the money? And if we never get the money, well, then how are we going to feed our family? And now our family's dead. Bottom brain goes, what the fuck? The family's dead? Oh my God, we've got to stop that from happening. And it kicks our top brain offline. And now it's just responding with whatever survival system kicks in. So is it normal? Yeah. Is it useful? No. But it happens, and that's why therapy is useful, to update that so that stuff no longer shows up.
Mic drop. We can end the episode here.
It's over.
Oh my
Done.
God.
Book your appointment, see a therapist today, get that done.
I love the way you explain that. Oh my gosh, like just so cool. And it explains so much, especially when you're like, yeah, our middle brain can't tell time zones. And that is, to me, it connects with like presence and being present. I just have these vivid memories when I was like 10, 9, 8 years and younger. I remember just being, I was in the moment. I was just there, and I was just like, whatever was happening, I was there. And then as you get older, you're right. You start like comparing, and you start feeling more of those like, oh my God, I need to do this to survive or this to survive. And I'm actually curious though. So I have 2 questions.
Before you ask, let me just update. So middle brain lives in past and future time zones.
Okay.
Bottom brain can't tell time. And when we're kids, our brain's being developed, but as we get older, we're only just having more experiences of perceived threat. right? When we're kids, it's fair to say that our teachers and classmates and parents can be experienced the same as lions and tigers. I mean, stand up
Mm.
and read this aloud. And it's like, oh my God, now everybody's looking at me and now I might get eaten, right? So our brain
Got
changes
it. Yeah.
the response. So as we get older, we're just getting more messaging about what might be eaten. Like someone saying, ooh, that doesn't look like a nice picture. I would have done it this way. Now our brain is like, I remember that one time, and this is how we survived, and they might eat us. So
Yeah.
yeah, what's happening is we're just having more experiences where there's a data glitch, which is why you don't have to relive everything in your life to clear it. Just
Hmm.
clear the first time or something that was significant, and then the rest all falls in place too.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And um when you say like even another metaphor I've heard of like clearing the glitch is like imagine you have like a colander, um, colander where water comes through, when you wash your salad or whatever. Let's say you have sand in there and then you're like using the colander on the beach and all the sand comes through, but then there's some wet sand and like globs of sand and those are stuck and they're not getting through. They can't get through the bottom. So like so through your approach, it's pretty much like you put your hand in there and like deglob those like wet sand globs and then finally as you sift the colander they all go through and then they're not there anymore, those stucknesses are gone. Is that another good metaphor for
Yeah,
that?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, our mind only gets stuck for three reasons. One, part of it can't tell time.
Mm-hmm.
Two, it's attached meaning. And three, it's trying to stop that from happening. So if it can't tell time, the attached meaning is always about survival, then it's definitely trying to stop that threat from happening. So the globs would be any one of those three things.
Mm-hmm.
You just update those three things, and then it no longer is problematic.
Yeah. And okay, so my question was, how you're like, you know, the reason why we can't just say, just think happy thoughts, just think happy thoughts. And then the person's like sitting there being like, okay, I'm going to try to think happy thoughts. Like, so, I mean, I have experienced in my life a lot of the times, I'm feeling kind of down in the dumps. I'm not feeling motivated, not feeling driven. I'm feeling down about myself. And I'm like, okay, let me just switch up my mindset. Let me like work on this for a second. And and at times I'm able to be like, what thought would help me feel better right now? And let me just think that thought. Okay, now when I think this thought, I don't believe it yet, but what can I do to convince myself that it's true? And then I give myself some sort of story and then it's true. And then I'm like, you know what? Okay, yeah, I'm actually gonna do this. I feel better. How does that work? Like, why does that work sometimes? It takes effort,
Yeah.
right? But it's still possible. So I'm confused about that.
Okay. So when those things that we've noticed sort of feeling down or worried or nervous, any of those things, that would be noticing the bottom brain, right? Because the
Mhm.
bottom brain can only communicate to our top brain by causing pain or sensations in our body or negative emotions to show up. Negative emotions are absolutely okay to be experienced, but if they're on for longer than a few minutes, then it's been a message from the bottom brain of, hey, I think we might get eaten.
Mhm.
What you're doing is using your top brain to notice it. Because
Mhm.
when we use our top brain to focus attention, it turns off middle brain thoughts and resets the bottom brain to calm optimal. We have a feature in our top brain called metacognition, thinking about our thinking. We're the only creatures that have thoughts about our thoughts. What you're also doing is noticing that middle brain thoughts have been influencing the bottom brain. Right? And so you're actively paying attention to it, being like, okay, what is that? Okay, well, what can I do about it? So now you've disrupted it. When you notice the middle brain thought, you've disrupted the process and brought it up to the top brain.
Mhm.
And then you're using your top brain to think it through. And when you're thinking it through, you're actually getting like, okay, well, then what do I do about this? And how does that fit? So now bottom brain's like, okay, so like we're not going to get eaten. No, we're going to do this now. Okay, so, but we're good. Yeah, we're just going to do this now. Okay.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
A very simple way you could do all that, because you described that sometimes that takes effort. I call it emotional petting because like our bottom brain works like our pets. And so like when the doorbell rings and our dog like gets excited and yells and barks and whatever, dogs don't yell, so I don't know why I said that. No, they bark. Right? Then we go to them and we pet them. We're like, it's okay, it's just a doorbell. No, don't worry about it. Right? We have to do that to our brain. So when we notice we're down about something or other stuff shows up, what you're really doing is emotionally petting your brain. It's okay.
That's
We're not
so
going to get
great.
eaten, right?
Oh
I
my
do it all
gosh.
the time. Yeah, you're not going to get eaten. It's fine. It's okay. Yep. Nope, not going to get eaten today. That's all right. Right? It's emotional petting for our brain. So if we
That's
work for our
genius.
pets, do it for your brain. So do you have to put all the effort to, I don't know, change things around? No. At a minimum, your brain thinks it's about to be eaten and it can't tell time. So if you can apply that reasoning to everything you've ever
Mhm.
experienced, then you can stop it from responding that way.
Oh, genius. Love that. And I'm gonna have that visual in my head now and pet my brain in the
Yeah.
future.
Try your brain. What do my clients don't like their photos? I don't know. They might not, but are they going to eat you? No, probably. If they were, you would know. Like they would not get close enough to do that without you being like, whoa, think you might eat me. Hold on. And the
Yeah.
brain automatically will kick in for survival. You don't even have to practice what to do in case someone
Hmm.
eats you. Your
Yeah.
brain will take care of it. So it's always coming back to what about this is being experienced like a perceived threat. And it's
Mhm.
perceived because it's not an actual threat to your survival.
Yeah. Like, so fear, a cool acronym I've heard, false evidence appearing real.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Actually, I'm curious, because I love to meditate. What happens when we meditate? Because it's like I can be so anxious, super like in a little stress ball. I sit down to meditate. I don't do my own quiet meditation yet. I still do like I follow meditations, or what's it called?
Guided
Like
meditation.
guided. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah. I follow meditations. I do guided meditations, but yeah, it just that shit works. Like 2 minutes in, even sometimes 5 minutes, 10 minutes, my whole nervous system is just relaxed, calm. Like what happens in those like three parts of the brain when we're following a guided meditation?
Yeah, you're using your top brain to focus attention. Right? And when we focus attention, it turns off the middle brain
So
thoughts
same thing. We're
and it
becoming
makes that
aware. We're the
calm brain.
observer of
Yeah.
what is happening. Yeah.
Most people though will say like I hate meditating and like all this stuff, and it's because we have this sometimes pressure we put on it. It's like just meditate and then you'll feel better. So then people are like, I better meditate so I'll feel
Mm.
better. And then bottom brain's like, but if we don't feel better, we'll die.
Yeah.
Like, okay, top brain, go offline. The focus, the attention
Mm.
isn't available. So when we put pressure on something, bottom brain thinks it's linked to survival. And it's not
Yeah.
logic, because most people are like, but if it helps me, why wouldn't I do it? Because bottom brain can't get past the part that it thinks you're dead if you didn't do it. It's just trying to stop you from dying. So meditation is a form of hypnosis, right? It's a way of really, and hypnosis is just about connecting to every level of your brain and processing information on each level.
Mhm.
So it can be a guided one, or people can use skilled imagination to do it themselves, but ultimately you're focusing attention. It's why like these sensory experiences are useful, or it's also why we've attached meaning to like when kids have a stuffy. I need my stuffy to sleep. Like that stuffy is not magically making that child sleep, right? But
Yeah.
their brain has been like, this soothes me, it's calming.
Mhm.
And now we're using our whole brain to reset.
Yeah. And it's connected. I sleep when I have the stuffy and it gives it meaning. Like, I can only sleep well if I have it, or
Yeah.
yeah.
And meaning, attached meaning can be okay. If you like
Mhm.
it, keep it. And if you
Yeah.
don't, then change it.
Yeah. That's great. So, do you think this is a good time to do like a live, let's
Yeah.
do it? Let me bring up a thing and then
Okay.
just do
Yeah.
your
Tell
thing.
me. What do you
Okay.
got? What's there for us to get done? And
Perfect.
we should
So,
just make sure
yeah.
people know. I actually have no idea what you're about to tell
Yeah,
me.
I literally have no idea.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me what's been troubling.
So, That so whenever I photograph couples in a setting where it's like their time for me to take photos of just the two of them, like portrait time, on a wedding day. So for example, so the rest of the wedding day, I'm shooting more storytelling, documentary style. I'm observing and documenting, not really giving people direction. But then when it comes down to just the two of them, and I want to create, emotive, fun, like meaningful photographs for them, I know what I know how to create already, like really good images to a certain level, like where I am now. But I'm scared for some reason to try new things and experiment and take my photography to a whole nother artistic level that I haven't gotten to yet. So that terrifies me. And so I've always just end up defaulting being like, well, you know what? I already know this stuff and this stuff works really well and it'll make them happy and it looks really good. So I'll just do this. But I'm scared to actually be like, okay, let me try this new technique for just even 5 minutes. So I don't know how to move through that fear.
Okay, so you have a lot of experiences of not being eaten when you do the things you know how to do. Yeah.
Yes.
So the thought of doing something new and different would mean you might be at risk of being eaten. So you just haven't done it because you've only just done what keeps you not being eaten.
Yeah, but it's still, see, because being eaten in my head, I'm thinking I don't want to disappoint them. And yeah, I am equating that, I guess, subconsciously to being eaten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, right. The
Or I
reason,
don't want to feel like I don't want them to feel on a wedding day that, because it's like such a valuable piece of time, it's their wedding day. I don't want to waste any of their time,
yeah,
and do something to experiment and it's not 100% sure,
yeah,
yeah, or them to even sense that, that, oh, I'm trying something new.
yeah. You wouldn't want the predators to sense something isn't up for you, they might eat you, right? Like at a basic sense there, that's what's been happening.
Yeah.
You've been anticipating something for them that actually they have no idea about.
Hmm.
First of all, you're not going to get eaten in any sense. I mean, so at a core level, you have this excitement of things. You're like, I know how to do this, and like that works, and all that stuff, which is cool because like you have that to fall back on. You literally could do anything you want and know your default is like great. Like your best, or really actually your worst would be someone else's best. Right? So like just having that means that you can do anything you want because like whatever, I'll always just default back to that. But you're excited to try some other things and to see what else you can do and to expand that because hey, this is good, but I think I could do something even greater. Right? That's exciting, yeah.
Hmm.
But these people you're photographing, they would have no idea. They literally would have no idea that you're doing something new. They would have no idea at all. None. And also, gosh, I like love when I have photo shoots, even though I like panic the whole time that they're gonna look terrible. I feel so bad for my photographer because I never tell them, but like I'm always like, they're gonna suck. And I get so mad because I'm like, I spent all this money and right, I'm like panicking the whole time. But every single time I get them back, I'm like, holy fuck, that looks amazing. Right. And it's like better than I ever thought. And I'll tell you that there is literally no amount of time or money that I would not spend to have like one awesome photo where I think I look amazing.
Mm.
Right. And the thing is when you have that photo, you never talk about how long it took to get that shot. Right? People are like, hey, that's a great photo. Or like, oh my God, that's so cool. And you're never like, I know. Do you know how long my photographer took to capture that one? Like that never
That's so
happened.
true. Yeah.
So the idea that you've been thinking to do this may take up more time, no one else even considers. Because, well, one, we know that like you were hired because they already believe in you, in your credibility. You got that far and you didn't even have to take a photo yet. Right? If you got that far with someone and you did nothing, then anything you do is already there because they have already decided you're the fit for them. You have the credibility. See, therapy, photography, anything only doesn't work for two reasons. No connection, wrong problem. Right? We can apply that to photography. You get hired based on your credibility. Your credibility comes on like how they connect with you, how they feel about you, how they've seen in your work, what other people have said. There are people, I mean, Sarah, you're amazing. You just say like, Jaime, go see her. People will come and be like, I don't have to tell them anything. Like Sarah just said, do it. I'm like, okay. We
That's
do what
amazing.
Sarah tells us to do, right? But you have credibility, which established my credibility. So when somebody hires you, they already want whatever you've got.
Mm.
And I don't know a thing about photography. So I literally don't care how you get that shot, but you just get it. And you're the one who has the vision for that. You're the one who's going to get it. And you're the one who knows everything for it. Like, I don't even have to like make sure I look good. You're just going to make that happen anyways. I don't care how it gets done. It just gets done. So what if the way to think about this is that no one actually knows what it is you're doing, but your credibility, your intention, which is getting what you want them to get, but also you're doing it because it leaves you satisfied. When you do what's best for you, that is best for others. So when you're taking these photos and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to try this thing and do that, do it. Because nobody knows that you're doing it except for you. And also, if it turns out like shit, it's probably better than anything they've ever received anyways. And besides, you have all the default ones that you'll just like have too.
Mm-hmm.
But at a minimum, no one even knows that they're wasting time. Especially if I think about like a wedding or any celebration, the only thing you actually want are those photos. Because one day when our like memories fade or we don't remember the details, we go back to photos, which give us the data, the information about something. And it gives us that data and information. And that's the thing we're like, that's all I ever wanted from this. So no one's wasting any time. Certainly not you. And also, what if you just did it because it's exciting to do and that no one knows any other way? So if no one knows, there is no actual risk. If there's no risk, you're not going to be eaten. If you're not going to be eaten, then well, do what you want. Would that be okay?
Yeah, that really clicked a lot. It's so true. It's like me, like they have no, whether I'm taking the photos that I know how to take already or I'm experimenting, where they are, they have no idea what's going on in my mind, what I'm seeing through the lens. Like they literally have no idea. And for some reason, I had this feeling of like, okay, I think I'm going to try something new in my head. And out of nowhere, a voice tells me, oh, they know, they know you're experimenting right now or doing something you've never tried. So that's really interesting. But something still is like, so I think I noticed as you were saying that maybe I know the reason why I'm nervous to waste their time. And I
Yeah,
think it's
tell me about that.
because my main approach that I have written everywhere on my website and through the photography that I show in the price guide they get on my website and online galleries, the most biggest part of my approach is this authentic storytelling, fly on the wall documentary style, where I want them to just live in the moment and not even know there are being photos taken, right? And so I'm, for some reason, have a fear that the couples that value a documentary style photographer won't value portraits of just the two of them because it'll feel too quote unquote posy, or it's like, well, we just want to live out our day. Why do we have to take these photos? So I have this, like, I think, limiting belief that if a couple wants a documentary style photographer, then the portraits are something they feel like they just need to get done. But like, I don't know why I have this thought, because obviously that's like time alone for them and
Sure.
photos for them just to have of themselves. Like I know
Yeah,
I
you
want,
know all the benefits. Yeah.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I know I would want a documentary style wedding photographer, but I would also want Rory and I to have those photos too of just ourselves. So I don't know
so
why I have that fear there.
there's a couple things. First, though, when people go to do just the photos on their own, does anybody ever just tell you, like, no, I don't want to do this?
No, but in my head, I'm like, well, they just wouldn't have the confidence to say, we don't want this done. Or sometimes maybe one person is more enthusiastic about that part of the day than the other.
Okay.
And the one person is doing it more to like appease their partner or like,
Okay.
make them happy. Yeah.
Sure. So that would be their own stuff.
Yes. But it's also their day. And I want to make sure that, I mean, you're right. At no point in the process did they say, no, we don't want any photos of us alone. But then I'm worried in my head. I'm like, what if it's just they think they should have these photos because every other couple that gets married, it's just what everyone does.
Okay.
And so I wonder if it's like they're just feeling social pressure. And then I'm over here assuming that they want portraits on themselves. Just
Sorry, are you talking about them or you now? Because are you feeling like you have to do those portrait photos of them, but you like, because I don't know what their experience is.
I want to, and I see value in
You're
it.
just not sure how people feel about it, yet no one's told you no. So now there's this whole middle brain story of people have just like you forced them into these glorious photos.
I know I'm more like, what if they're only doing these because they think they should because of Pinterest and
Okay.
wedding blogs and every other couple does it, so
Sure.
we should.
Okay, well, so yeah, they should, and yes, and that's fine. Okay, but here's the thing that's actually been troubling has been the way you've been feeling about you when thinking about that.
Yeah, like I want to feel excited and creative and artistic when taking these photos because I know they have value and they're so special.
Yeah,
But I feel you're right. It's like this middle brain thing. Something blocks me
from
from
doing that. And the
doing it freely in the moment because I'm too in my head. They probably don't want to be here. They probably don't want to be here. They
okay,
probably just want to be free and do what they want in their day.
okay. So tell
Yeah.
me about a time then when you had this idea to do something. It doesn't have to be about photography, it may not even be related at all. But a time when you did something and then when you did it, you were like excited, but someone else had something to say about it and you didn't really know people had that experience, and then it just sort of felt weird.
Okay, so I love it does have to do with taking photos. I love documenting life in general, just even my personal life through photos and videos. And I just would do it of like people around me. And then I would very often get reactions of people being like, oh, like I'm like, I don't want to be on camera or have a photo taken of me. I'm like, oh, I'm just documenting this from like my personal memories. I just want to remember all these moments. And it's just so it feels like I'm being intrusive.
Okay. Is there a particular moment with someone where they really had a strong opinion about that?
Hmm. Maybe actually, now that I'm like, maybe when it comes to, I think I remember in Ecuador when Rory and I first started dating, like almost 9 years ago now, we were traveling
Mhm.
and I was just like, yeah, taking pictures freely, blah, blah, blah. And then whenever, because no one else was there to take our photos, whenever I would do more of a setup for us to have a photo of just us, it was more of like, well, he's like, I just want to be in the moment and be present. And I don't want to keep setting up photos of us. I don't want them to be set up. I want them to feel like real. I'm like, well, this is the only way to get photos of us. Oh, that's interesting connection.
Yeah. Right.
So it's like I wanted to make sure he had a good time, and I felt
Mhm.
bad that I would kind of stop the moment and be like, let's get a photo of us.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Right. See, let's actually think through using our whole brain though. Let's think through what that actually had been about. You have this skill and knowledge and this beautiful ability to capture things. and you were excited to document the trip. Also, you were newly like dating and together and doing things, and it was like so fun to get to do. And of course, you would want those moments of capturing the two of you together. And yes, there was no one else to do all that. And so rather than just doing selfies and things in that nature, you used all of the skills available to you and set things up. And for him, I mean, I don't know much about him, but like I imagine someone who isn't like really in that world of stuff, also in a foreign country, and like totally blatantly letting everyone know they're clearly a tourist, like setting up a camera and posing and doing the things everyone walking by is like those tourists. So now we've drawn attention, and yikes, what if they try to eat us? But the thing is that what you learned when you think about it from here is that like Rory had his own stuff about it, which wasn't about you and wasn't about what you were doing, but it was about like his own stuff. And what we know that at a minimum, at some point his brain thought he might get eaten. But you knew otherwise. And you have this like freedom of you at these moments where you're like, I don't care. This is what I want because I have a vision. And I have a vision and I see this and this is going to be great. And just know it's going to be great. And I bet the photos are great. Yeah.
And
I bet you're really glad that you have them.
Yeah.
And I bet he is too, even though he like.
We have one up on the wall.
No.
Actually, you know what? That is one that he even suggested because there was a freaking volcano exploding in the background. So I was shocked. I was like, so that's actually one he suggested. Interesting. Yeah. But.
And did you know the volcano was exploding at that right time when you got that photo?
Yeah, because we were driving a cab and out of nowhere, the cab driver was like, look, the volcano's exploding. We're like, holy shit, pull over. Let's get a photo.
So really,
fuss
any
in front
of
of
his
it.
complaints about anything not being in the moment is false because that was in the moment. And you had the equipment, you had the skills, you knew how to do it, and you got a photo better than anyone with a selfie stick would have ever got. Right? Because you knew that, and he was with you in it. But all that stuff he had to say wasn't ever about you. It was stuff you learned about him. Which means that, Sarah, sometimes you just hold the vision for other people. And sometimes these portrait photos at a wedding when people are off together is still in the moment. It's in the moment and it's something exciting. And you know what else it's doing? It's creating a beautiful, intimate moment. One that only you can create. One that only you not only create, but you're the only one who can capture it in that moment because you're the one there to do it. And you don't get to decide what happens for other people. And much like Rory, people are responsible for sharing their own things. If their brain prevents it, that's their own thing. You're not responsible for that. But you have something so special and talent just available to you that it could not be done without you. And so explore, play, have fun. Because you had no idea you were going to pull over on the side of the road and take a picture with a volcano exploding in the background. But that happened. So I can only imagine what other stuff you create now. All with the excitement of knowing that like you're doing what's best. And other people just may not know it, but they don't have to know that you are holding the best intention and you are always going to get that done. Good with that?
Yeah. And actually, something came to mind of like, just something I can say to them at the start of that portrait session that would give me that consent and permission to play. And then I could be free. Because if my response, just like you mentioned about your responsibility in therapy is like to get it done, help the person. It's not on them. It's on me, I believe, as a photographer to give them permission, like give them space to feel confident to be like, Sarah, we're done. We want to go back to our family and friends instead of me wondering and guessing while I'm trying to create the whole time. So I realized I'm like, first of all, I feel very like my body's buzzing right now. I feel very free and excited and very clear about that. And now I have a whole new, like, I'm like, oh, so we're going to do this now. And think about this time instead of photos and portraits. It's about you two spending time together, which I already say, but I think I have this new now understanding of why I say it on a deeper level.
Yeah.
And I'll be probably telling them like at any point during this creation process and you two having this time together on your own on your wedding day, when you're done, just tell me because like I could do this forever and obviously I won't, but when you're done and you guys are like, it's time, we want to go see our family and friends, let me know because then I'm not wondering the whole time. And then we're both on the same page. And that just what you just did for me, paired with that kind of communication with them, game changer. I'm so excited.
Totally.
So thank you.
Well, absolutely. Also, while you were sharing that, I sort of didn't realize, were we talking about photography or sex now? Because like it's the same thing, right? We want consent, we want conversation and communication, we want to play, we want to explore, we want to do these things, but we want people to know like, hey, if you don't like this, tell me. And it's okay to share things. And also I could do this all day, but if you want to like go hang out with other people, let me know.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, it's so sort funny. Of like sex, Sarah. And yeah, now you've done that. Consent is important and permission is important. And God, who wants to have sex wondering how everyone's doing and whether you're liking it? You just rather someone tells you, but they don't know to tell you, so you tell them to tell you.
That's amazing. Oh my God.
But ultimately, Sarah, to make sense of what you got done is that you used your whole brain to figure that out. You noticed something had been out of tune. And then when you noticed it, you sort of thought, okay, well, on a brain level, here's what's happening. No one's going to be eating. But then you were like, yeah, but this thing still shows up, right? And that thing is because data gets stored in the bottom brain. And so when we can update that, then it changes everything. And when that got updated, then your brain was like free, your top brain available free to create, explore, play, and think, okay, now that that's out of the way, here's how I handle it. This is what I do. And this feels great. And that's how you got that done.
Oh, amazing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And this, yeah. And those of you listening, man, if your mind is blown right now, literally top blown. No, that's not what we want. I don't know. Which one is it?
I know. Just with the emoji.
Yeah. Just DM me right now. Be like, holy shit, Sarah. Oh my God, Jaime's amazing. I want to connect with you on this because I'm so passionate about this new approach. And Jaime, thank you so much for like your time and energy and explaining everything to us so incredibly well and also taking me through a session on the podcast as well. And I think this is a perfect segue into you mentioning your event, which I'm so excited about because as you can all see, Jaime is a talented freaking therapist. And also, how hilarious is she? Like, I've laughed how many times I had to like tilt my head back to be too loud in the microphone. So yeah, it's like, please tell everybody about the event that you have happening really, really soon on June 10th.
Yeah, I'm so excited about this because this is the first time I've ever done anything like it. I am doing a live show in Collingwood at the Simcoe Street Theatre, and it's on
Collingwood, Ontario, because some of my listeners are all over the world. So for you, those of you in Ontario, lucky.
Yes. And this is just the start because I want to do so much more because I really think we have this outdated way of thinking about things. And I'm tired of people like living with that way. And also, I don't like being told what to do. So I decided that as a therapist, and I kind of think I'm like funny, that I can put together this show and do it in a way that I am challenging all the stigmas of therapy and mental health. And I'm actually going to do it through sharing my own story, which is something as therapists we're not supposed to do. We're not supposed to talk about ourselves, but I think it's so unfair for people to not know that like we go through things too. And I think using my story to share things with other people really in a way that's sort of like TED Talk meets stand-up. And that's what I'm envisioning for this night. And I am so excited for it because it's going to be brain changing. And I think just having that way to connect and laugh and think about things differently while hearing some funny stories about how to do that, I think will be really amazing. And this is just a start. We'll start in Collingwood and see where it goes from there. And yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Probably nerve-wracking, but you have the tools for that shit.
Listen,
you're gonna pet your brain.
I'm gonna emotionally pet myself. Some might call that masturbating, but that's not what we mean about any of that. I mean, we could, I don't know. There is some serotonin release in that, but
Yeah.
I'm going to emotionally pet myself and I'm going to do all sorts of things, but I actually know literally no one's going to eat me. So it doesn't matter what I have to say, because like my worst day is someone's best. So I am just going to go for it. And I hope people will be there. I am having it, it will be filmed. So we'll see what we do with it afterwards. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited to take sort of this in a bigger way.
Amazing. Oh, that's exciting that it'll be filmed, because then those that aren't in Ontario can possibly have the opportunity to experience it later. Who knows? You still have plans for that.
Oh,
But
I'll see.
so where can people buy tickets? And also, who would you suggest that comes? Like, do they bring their family, their friends? Do they go by themselves?
Yeah, I think come by yourself, bring your family, bring your friends, bring your neighbors, bring like the person at the grocery store you think needs therapy. Like,
Imagine.
right? Be like, hey, why don't you bring my mother if you would like? I mean, I don't know. I think it's just a great way. It's a fun night out. Those that are in Collingwood, we're going to be at the theater, and then afterwards we're going to go over to Black Bellows to like hang out and connect even further. And so it's going to be a full evening. It's called An Evening with My Therapist.
So
So
good.
yeah, you can go, tickets are on Eventbrite, but you can access that. My Instagram's really the best way to find me.
Yeah, do
Yeah,
that. What's
so
your
it's at
Instagram?
Therapy with Jaime. My Instagram's the best way. The link for all the tickets, plus my website, plus anything you want to know is all right there. Everything I do in session, I put right on Instagram too. And so I think that's a really great way to connect.
Awesome. Yeah. So go to her Instagram, Therapy with Jaime, and Jaime is spelled Jaime.
Yeah.
And that's it. Also, if you found this episode like mind blowing, which I know you did, um, just like screenshot it, like add it to your story, tag us in it, because this needs to get around. Like you all can see how, a lot of people are suffering with mental health, when clearly you see that there are other options out there for them to reprogram those things that are like keeping them feeling so heavy and stuck and all of that. So yeah, share this episode to your Instagram, put the word out there, share it with a friend, a family member, whoever comes to mind. Yeah, and let's get this information out there, because clearly it's not happening fast enough. When Jaime found out about it 15 years ago and I'm just hearing about it now, like what is going on? So
I wasn't as good then as I am now, so that's fine. Sarah, should we do a screenshot pose? But it's like, we don't even have a mind-blowing pose. It's like, we should have worked on that.
like this. Oh, so when we're done recording, I'll take a photo of us like this with
That
our.
looks like we're reindeer. Okay, we'll work on it.
We'll work on it. Maybe you should just have a hat on that makes your face look like a mind blown emoji. So it's like you have a hat on and it's just the mind blown emoji part on the top.
Perfect.
And just walk around town like that. People ask you, hey, why? And then that's how you can spread.
It's like a whole new apparel line. Great.
Yeah.
Wow, you're really flowing with ideas here. This is perfect.
Well, you opened up my creative flow.
I see. Well, we better wrap this up so you can jot this stuff down and really do some great business adventures here.
I can't. Oh my God. I'm almost ruffling on the ground here. Oh my gosh. Okay. Do you guys remember Roffle? Like ROFL?
I'm cringing that you're saying that.
Rolling on the floor, laughing people. That's what it stands for.
I'm embarrassed for you right now.
All right. And with all that, yeah, we bid you adieu. Thanks for tuning in. And Jaime, thank you so much for your time and energy.
My pleasure.
Yay! Thank you so much for hanging out with me and tuning into this episode. If you got value out of it, please feel free to message me on Instagram at Sarah Monica Photo. That's Sarah no H, Monica with a K photo, to let me know. I get so freaking energized hearing from others that what I've said has had a positive impact on their lives. Also, make sure to hit subscribe to the Shine and Thrive podcast to never miss an episode. I'm so grateful for you, and I'm sending you all the productive vibes your way so you have the best week ever.